Woohoo, broadcasters
Hey,
live.
hey, hey. We are live. Hey, everybody. It is Peter here from Strong Healthy Women, and I am here with the Success Stories series. And today I am joined by the lovely Michele. Hello, Michele. How are you today?
I'm well, thanks, Peter. And first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to be on this series. It's actually quite a pleasure to talk to you today. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. I've been watching your really positive comments in the group coming through, and I thought, this is a woman we've got to have on. We've got to actually talk to her. So a little bit of background about Michele. She is a recently turned 50-year-old, and she's an ex-military nurse who worked in emergency and critical care. So she would have certainly had a lot of things to cope and deal with. And I think that's a good place to start, Michele. So how long have you been out of the military now?
Well, I discharged in September 2017, so there was quite a bit of a lead up to that. So it was almost I did almost 20 years. But in the last little while was kind of the big events where everything kind of fell apart, and I was discharged in September 17.
Yeah, okay. And you're a single mum. Tell us about how many kids have you got, and how old are they? Give us some insight into the kids.
Okay, so I was a single mum. For most of my military career, I was a single mum. She got remarried in 2 weeks after I discharged in September 17.
Okay.
My kids are, gosh, they're turning 27 and 29 this year. They're well and truly grown and have left the nest, and my youngest one has given us 2 grandchildren, which are absolutely the love of our lives, as well as we've got 4 grandchildren from my husband's side as well. So 5 boys and 1 girl. And I have to say, only having sons, and then with 5 boys, I have, when it comes to my granddaughter, I'm like, she's got emotion.
I am so glad you said that. I'm clapping away here. So I too am in a blended family. So I have 14 grandkids all up. Yes. And when the first granddaughter came along, she actually lived with us and her mum for quite some time. And she was just an absolute delight. But as more of the girls came along and I started to see, they were very different to boys, and I had only ever dealt with boys as well too. And it was like, oh my goodness, this is different, that just the way they drop their lips and they say they can't do things all the time, and very different. And we have to change that in our young ladies, It's like you can do things, you at least try to do them. Yeah.
Absolutely. I remember Lucy as a 2-year-old, and she was watching a movie or something on TV, just a Disney movie, and she came to me and she climbed up on my lap and she said, "Oh, Nana, I'm just so sad." And all of these tears started rolling down her face, and I was like going, "Holy cow, what do we do?"
From my perspective, Michele, I think it's been a really great learning curve for me to actually tap into my emotions, because my story is one that I got used to putting things in a box and shutting them down, and so those emotions wouldn't show through so much. And so it was a great eye-opener that it is okay to show emotions. Don't be dramatic over it, but definitely it's okay to show emotions. So I learned something from the
You're so right, because they're just emotions. It's the meaning that we place on them that makes it big deal in our heads. You know, they are just emotions, and it's how we react that makes the difference. And I'm very much like you. And we were saying just before, when I first started nursing, it was very much, you know, contain your emotions. It's about the patient. It's not about you. If you're feeling sad, that's, you know, put it away, deal with what's going on. And I did very much the same as you. And as things come along, I would put them in a box and put them on the shelf, and I'll deal with that later, because right now I need to focus on what's in front of me. And it was just, and over the last, probably 7 years, maybe 5-7 years, like you, it's been quite a journey. And it probably goes back a bit further than that when Chelsea came along. It's been quite a journey of they're only emotions. It's the meaning that is the problem, you know? So, yeah. And I wonder how many other women do that as well, because they just kind of, you know, we kind of focus on sacrificing, giving, and, you know, it's all we've got to do for the family, we've got to do for this one or our loved ones or this, you know, the other person. And we just kind of shut our emotions down. And, it's quite a trap to fall into, isn't it? It is quite a trap because it makes you unwell.
Oh, it totally makes you unwell. And I'm not sure whether you're aware or not, Michelle, I'm actually writing a book at the moment. And so it really is delving into the past. So if you can go back to the past and have a look at those things and look at them with more clarity now than what you had back then, it does give you that opportunity to be able to deal with it and move past it and actually find some lessons in it as well too. So, you know, there are some wonderful things that I've discovered about myself going back into that story and those things that I told myself about who I was as a person. Yeah, so it is fascinating. Yeah, absolutely fascinating. Absolutely. So back to your story, Michelle. So did you find that after, you know, like shutting all of these things down from everything that you've been through, did that affect you physically as well as mentally and emotionally? I would imagine so.
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2006, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder, which from it was really an overactive immune system. And, you know, that's something that I've now got to take into the future and look after myself, because I essentially burnt myself out. But even then, you know, I didn't listen. I didn't listen to my body. I didn't listen to what I was being told, because it was all about, okay, well, the kids are, they're 14 and 12. Okay, I've got to keep going. I've got to get back up on my feet, and I've got to keep going. So even with this, and I was on a form of chemotherapy to try and get my immune system to calm down and all of this sort of stuff. And I was like, I've got to get back to work. I've got to get, got to get back in the rat race, you know, back on the hamster wheel. And then back on the hamster wheel, and I was a pedestrian hit by a car when I was overseas on a mission. And even that didn't slow me down. You know, as soon as I could, I was in the pool and I was working my legs to make sure they would work again. And because I was told I'd never walk properly again. And I was one of those ones who went, watch this, hold my beer, watch this. And then I got really unwell after returning from Afghanistan. Actually, I got really unwell when I was in Afghanistan with mental health issues. And that led to, it's just, I think we just need to slow down and listen to what our bodies are saying. My body was telling me that I needed to change. It was telling me, but I would, you know, I'd go and exercise, I'd go and eat, and, you know, and I wasn't listening. So it all kind of fell apart. And that's where, you know, I got really unwell. and in 2017, my career and the very role that I'd defined myself by ended. And it was the most devastating thing ever for me, because I was just like, I had defined myself by being a military nurse and by my rank and what I could offer others, by the knowledge I could offer others, by the skills that I could offer, all of that sort of thing. So it was absolutely devastating for me. And it was a period where, even though I had help, so I had the medical and the health care in place, I still needed to do a lot of the work, and a lot of that came down to, as I've been saying, is listening to my body and listening to what it needs. And it needs good nutrition. It needs exercise. It needs me to slow down and be mindful, like be in the present, rather than constantly racing off and shutting down and that sort of thing. So, yeah, it was quite a learning. It's been quite a learning curve.
I know that when we kicked off this series, I gave a little bit of my story, not a great deal, but a small part. And I've always said that the biggest lesson that I've ever had was listening to my body, because it was telling me that there was something wrong. And, I kept on going back to the doctors going, no, it's not right. Like, I'm not that person who has to sleep in the afternoon. I'm not that person who feels like this. There is something wrong. And through persistence, we found out what was wrong. But and it could have been a lot worse had it have been left. But and it is so true. Our bodies speak to us, and we need to listen to them, but we tend to not. We tend to ignore them and keep going, because we go, okay, I've got so many other things to do. I've got a family to look after, or grandkids to look after, or I've got meals to cook, or houses to clean, and, a career to manage. And so therefore I have to keep going. But the truth of the matter is that if we keep going and we don't listen, we burn out, and then all of those other things that we're putting our pressure on ourselves to do, we can't do them. That's because we've ended up in bed, with the doona over the top of our head and not wanting to actually do anything at all, because we can't. We can't physically, we can't mentally, we can't emotionally. So, yeah, brilliant. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Great lesson to listen.
I remember the day I was coming out of hospital after I'd had the first flare of the autoimmune disorder, and that was the first day that I could actually shower standing up, because I was so exhausted all of the time that I'd even have to sit down in the shower. And when I got home, I was flat out walking to the front door and back to my bedroom, and then I'd have to rest. And, things like that. And that is incredibly debilitating for someone who'd been as active as I'd been. And but like I said, even then I didn't stop, because I was so focused on got to do.
You made me think of a situation that happened with me. I had to have an operation after I was diagnosed, and my mum rang me and said, we're coming down. She was living at the coast. And I said, no, Mum, because at that stage I was divorced. I was living on my own in my little apartment in the city. And I said, there's nowhere to stay and whatever. And, Michelle, I thought I'd be okay, being strong and being resilient, I'd be okay. I got out of bed and I could barely drag myself to the kitchen, and I'm thinking, how on earth am I going to actually cook myself something to eat? And then there was a buzz on the intercom, and I looked, and it was my mum and dad, and I burst into tears, because it was like, how did she know? She just knew. She just knew. And I said, oh, I'm so pleased you're here. And she said, yeah, don't worry, we got a blow up bed with us, we're just going to sleep on the floor. And it was so lovely that she knew. She just wanted to be there for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's
it's
awesome.
true. It is awesome, but we don't realize, we think that we are stronger, and sometimes we just don't take that help when someone's saying, yeah, I'm putting my hand up, I'm going to help you. And we walk away from it. We go, no, I'll be okay. It's like that autopilot that we go on where we say, someone says, how are you today? And you go, oh, you're good. And deep down, you're not good.
Oh, I hear you. So how do we change that, Peter? How do we change it? We've got to empower women to actually deeply realize that if they don't look after themselves, if they don't fill their own cups, if they don't look after their nutrition, their exercise, their mental health, their spiritual health, if they don't do all of that, they can't help others. They can't give others their best if they're not giving themselves their best.
Yeah, it is very true, Michelle. And how do we just keep telling the story. We just keep saying, you need to do it, you need to do it. And what I've come to realize over the years of dealing with women, so I've been in this industry now for 16 years. And what I have realized is that as we move into these, I call them the second innings of our lives, we do start to actually think about ourselves a bit more. So we don't necessarily act on it, but we do start to think about it. And for those that do act on it, you can see the change. And that's when they start going, you need to do something. And the more women that, as they go through the process and they start showing their voices and speaking up, then the more that message is getting out that you do need to do something. But it's something that we want to do ourselves. We can't force it. It's like you have to want to do it. And one of the biggest reasons that I hear for not making changes is I don't have time or I don't have motivation. The two biggest ones. Well, we all have the same amount of time. And if you have 1 minute, you have time to deep breathe. If you have 1 minute, you can do 1 minute of burpees. If you have 1 minute, burpees, if you have 1 minute, you can actually throw some stuff in a blender in 1 minute, and make some smoothie for yourself. So there is so much that you can do. So there is time. It's just what you think is not available to you is available to you.
When I hear someone say, I don't have time, I've got too much on my plate, all of that sort of thing, what I actually hear is, this is not a priority for me. I've got other priorities. And it's kind of, I know I do it with my friends a lot of the time. I'm like, hold on, let's have a look at your priorities. Let's, this isn't a priority for you. Why isn't it a priority? Why isn't looking after yourself a priority? Why isn't exercise a priority? Why isn't eating well a priority? Why isn't, taking the time to meditate, to journal, to do whatever it is that fills your cup? Why isn't that a priority? And when you start talking it through, it's like you can see these light bulbs going off in their heads, and it's like, yeah, good, I'm glad. But having said that, doctors and nurses are the worst patients. Yeah. Yes. I have to write it down to get it stuck in my face again, so I can stick it in my face and say, I've got to take my own advice.
It's like coming back down to that why. It's such a powerful thing. Like, so why is this important to you? Why, and I like to take it to that next level. So if I do nothing, imagine what it's going to be like. What will it be like in 1 year? What will it be like in 3, 5, 10, 20 years?
Oh,
so,
yes,
and you,
absolutely.
Yeah, and you've really got to tap into that emotional aspect of it, haven't you? So really, really feel it. Close your eyes and think about it. I know that when I've done that personally, I end up in tears because it's like, oh no, this is what I'm going to end up like if I do nothing. And I always try to get women to start with just today, write down 10 reasons, and you'll get all those surface type stuff. I want to be fit, I want to be strong, I want to be flexible, but then it's like, well, tomorrow you're going to write another 10 reasons, and the following day you're going to write another 10 reasons, and you're going to keep going till you've got at least 50 reasons on that piece of paper. And then you can start to categorize those things, and you can really see them. And what I've come to discover over a period of time was there's two really big standouts for women and why it's important to them. For the women that I've dealt with. And one is the grandkids. So being able to lift them, to be able to play with them, to be able to get down on the floor with them, to be able to dance at their weddings when they're older. So these grandkids are these beacons of light, driving women to keep themselves healthy and fit. And then the second reason is I want to keep traveling. Not that we've been able to travel. We're in lockdown here in Queensland at the moment. But we can travel to certain places, and there's so much available to us in our local area as well too. And so traveling is such a big aspect. And so you want to be able to, when you can get on a plane, put the things in the overhead locker. If you don't stretch your arms out, if you don't keep doing that, you're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to be able to pick up your suitcases, and carry them up the stairs.
Yes. Exactly right. And I just think of all the health benefits of, like I understand. And when you were saying that, I was thinking, what, they're two of my really good reasons as well of why I want to be active and healthy. But then, excuse me, I look at it and I go, well, I also don't want, it's preventative for me. I don't want osteoporosis.
Oh, yes.
I don't want, I want to ward off all the aches and pains for as long as I can, all of that sort of thing, because there's so many lifestyle diseases that we can prevent by being active and healthy.
Totally. Look, I had a single mum for like the early part of my life, and so I lived with my grandparents and my mum. She went to work every day, and so I was around. And they weren't old, like they were my age at the time, but they seemed so much older back then. And I witnessed my grandmother, she had very long nails and she got a cut in her toe and had diabetes. She lost her toe.
Yes.
The toe had to be amputated. It had moved into her leg. So she ended up losing her leg.
Yeah,
and so
really prevalent, so like in that time frame, gangrene used to take so many limbs and stuff. And I remember like Nana, dragging herself along the floor on her bottom, and she's obese, and my mum is obese. They're both in that category, and so was my great grandmother, and so she's dragging herself around on her bottom to get to the front stairs on the veranda. And she used her arms. And I think about it and I think, oh, my goodness, what upper body strength did she have? She used her arms to pull herself up because she couldn't get up off the ground. Oh, wow.
And that's how she got up. Then she hobbled around and got to the chair or whatever else that she wanted to do. And eventually, look, she had a stroke and she passed away, and it was all fairly quick. But that had such an impact on my young age, and I never even realised until later in life. And now I see my mum going through it, and it's like, Mum, all these things we can change. Like, I don't have those health concerns that the women in my family have had. I'm not saying I'm not going to ever have them, but I'm certainly doing everything I possibly can in my lifestyle. And it requires diligence. It requires that little bit of work, but it requires consistency and remembering why it's important to me. You know, when I think about that what I saw, it's like, I don't want that. I just don't want that. And so it is about preventing, for me, being like that. I mean, I've got all those superficial goals, like, you know, being in a bikini at 60. That's this year, everybody. All that type of stuff. but there's also those really deep hidden underlying meanings as well too. So
interesting. When you say that both you and your mum watched your grandmother go through that. I don't know, I'd kind of look at it and there'd be an assumption that if you've watched this and with everything we know today, you would do better. But there's such a difference. You meet so many people that they know better, but they just don't do better. And it's really interesting to watch their motivations and what's actually important to them, as opposed to, even, like I say, even though they know better, they don't necessarily do better.
And for some of them, they rely on the medication. Like, I'm okay because I'm taking the medication. But, you know, the medication may not be affecting you, but there will be some ramifications on your body. Absolutely. Because it is a man-made thing. So that it is going to have some level of impact.
And that's the definition of a drug, is something that physiologically alters, or something that alters your physiology. And there's got to be ramifications for that.
It totally has. So tell us a little bit about, like, what's your exercise routine look like? What do you do?
Well, I these days I do 2 or 3 sessions of aerobic activity a week, plus walking, being active, and just generally being active. But I also focus on now a lot more strength as I'm getting older, to maintain that bone density, just to have that lean muscle, you know, because it burns. I love to eat. I grew up in a sugarcane producing area in North Queensland, so everything was sugar. And even during the crushing season, the air is sweet. You can smell it. It's right down beside the sugar mill. And so I've grown up with a huge sugar addiction. So I love cakes and muffins and biscuits and all of that sort of thing, which is what my mum and my grandmothers both all cooked. And that's what we grew up on. So I am now looking at, as you get older, you tend to lose your lean muscle mass. So I'm looking to maintain and build, so that I can keep my bones strong and keep my joints strong and keep work with my balance. So I'm not looking at having a fall in the next couple of years and breaking my hip and things like that. So I focus on strength, but I do a number of things. Like I do HIIT sessions, as well as I do walking and running. I do HIIT sessions on a bike, on the station bike. Oh my gosh, they're tough, but it's so worth it. 50 seconds on, 10 seconds off, 3 sets of, and you just go like, oh, okay. And then you do 3 rounds of the sets, and it's like, whoa, okay, I'm good,
Good to go.
Hubby and I have just started learning how to horse ride. So for the last 4 or 5 months, we've started learning how to horse ride. So half an hour a week we go horse riding, which is just
fabulous.
awesome. It's fantastic.
Beautiful creatures.
Oh, yeah, and the difference is for us, because what we're really aiming to do is to challenge our bodies in terms of flexibility and strength and all of that. We're not doing the same thing over and over. We're challenging our body, because that's essentially when someone says to me, "What's your fitness goals?" It's like, for my body to be able to do what I ask it to do.
Yeah. And when a friend rings you and says, "Hey, let's go do this," you know that you've got the strength, you've got the flexibility, that you can just pack up and go, "Yep, I'm in, I'm all in." Yeah,
Absolutely.
Totally, I get that.
We only recently moved to the ACT from Queensland, and while I was up there, that was when I discharged from the military and that sort of thing, and I got into a local running group because I decided, okay, I want to run. It wasn't something I'd ever spent the time to do, and I was like, okay, well, I'll go to the local running group. And before I knew it, I was socially supported to do a half marathon. And then I was, in 2019, I was socially supported to do the full marathon down the Gold Coast. I had the best time. It was so much fun.
Fabulous.
And people kept saying, "Can't believe that you're saying that a marathon and fun in the same sentence." But it was so I had the best time down the Gold Coast, waving and high-fiving people, and it was just wonderful. And to have the group of women around me that we were all doing it, and we'd trained together, we were all doing it. It was just wonderful. So, yeah, being able to put your body and do those sort of things, it's great.
There's so much in what you've just said. There really is so much in what you've just said. The first thing that I want to tap into is the fact of how much you're beaming when you're talking about running. So this is the thing that lights up your inner soul. And I've seen this on so many occasions, you know, women who have discovered that kayaking is the thing that lights up their soul. There are those that run. For me, it's skiing. And I'm a girl in Queensland, and I never thought about skiing. It was just, I was in my 40s, and Paul said, "Why don't we go and try skiing?" Don't know that I want to do that. You know, that's a bit cold. Yeah, okay, let's go. So had the lessons, and, you know, that first day, absolutely hated it. Just hated it, because it was such a massive class. And the next day, they brought in another instructor and said, "We're going to split the class." And I said, "Oh, I'll go over." And the instructor that we got was brilliant, and, was addicted from that point. So then we were skiing here in Australia, and then overseas, Australia overseas, Australia overseas. Now, we haven't been able to do anything. So, it's chomping at the bit to get skiing. But that's the thing that lights me up. And if I can't do that, then it's got to be hiking. So, you know, just getting out in nature. And I think we all have that thing. And this is what part of my book is about, is if you look back to your childhood, you are going to find that thing that you just went, "This is it. This is what gives me that inner glow." And so when you can find that aspect, then you can realize that in order to keep doing that thing, there are certain components of fitness that you need. And they're the same, regardless of what type of thing that lights you up. You've got to do strength training, you've got to do flexibility training, and you've got to do endurance training. Those three key elements are key to all of us. And so there's, you know, how many days you should do it and all that type of stuff, which I won't bore everybody with because I'll, you know, rant on for too long. And then the other thing that you talked about was your interval trainings. So here's another little tip that sprung into my mind as well too. Some of the research around, the research around what is best for women over the age of 50 to burn body fat when it comes to interval training was a 8-12 second interval. So 8 seconds, as hard as you can. 12 seconds, just recover enough to go again as hard as you can. So 8, 12. Try that one out for 20 minutes, Michelle. Let me know. Yeah, 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Oh, my gosh. So do you just do 8, 12 continuously for 20 minutes? Oh, wow. I'm going to give that one a go. Thursday morning, I'm going to give that one a go. I'll let you know.
So I remember doing a challenge with my community like many years ago when I first came across this research, and we started off with 5 minutes, and then we added, I think it was 3 minutes each day. And by the time we got to the 20 minutes, there was only 3 of us left doing it. So.
Well, my son this morning went for 15 minutes. So we did, so it was 50 work, 10 rest by 3, then a minute rest, 50 work and 10 rest by 3, a minute's rest, and then 30 on, 30 off. And it was a 15-minute session altogether with warm-up and cool-down. But, yeah, I'll give that a go, the 8-12. I'll give that a go.
8-12. And then the other thing you mentioned about osteoporosis, and I was recently listening to the world-renowned doctor, and I can't think of his name. He's been researching osteoporosis and bone density for forever, since his mum was diagnosed, so way back when. And so it was really interesting to discover the best way to increase bone strength is actually jump.
Yes.
So jumping. So jumping, so that impact of jump. So to jump up, to jump down. And at 16 inches is where you will get 4 times the effect. I think it was 4 times the effect of strength on your bones than what you would do if you were running, as an example. So running will have an impact, as will strength training, but jumping is the best thing.
Ah, okay. I'll have to help with that. Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, I'm just conscious of the time as well too. I've gone over, but it's such an interesting conversation.
Such an easy conversation.
It is an easy conversation. Tell me about, like, you changed what you eat. So was there some particular type of methodology that you took on, or did you just go, I'm just going to eat healthier?
Do you know, it's actually been a constant struggle for me because of my sugar addiction. And I've tried many methods to try and get rid of my sugar addiction, to try and get rid of it, chop it off, just put it back in the past where it needs to be. Pretty much what we do now is we are vegetable-based meals.
Okay.
We do it with a little bit of with some protein. I tend to try and use protein to fill me up so I don't get the sugar cravings. But lots of vegetables, not as much fruit. When I lived up north, particularly when I was living in North Queensland, everything was fruit because there was mangoes on the trees, and it was just bananas, and you just grew them in your yard, and you just eat them. As a kid, you just eat them all the time. And, so we have gradually changed. So it's been a process over the 3 years. We've done a number of kickstarting, trying to turn more plant-based, but I just found that wasn't giving me enough. I still had the cravings and that sort of thing. So I'm very much into pretty much. We tend to eat vegetarian meals twice a week, just straight vegetarian meals, but use beans and spinach and that sort of thing to get iron. Make sure I'm getting enough iron. Diet and get the protein and what have you, but it's mainly vegetable based with protein, so chicken. Don't tend to eat a lot of beef, mainly chicken, mainly birds, turkey, chicken, that sort of thing.
So yeah, I'm pleased you said that, because there was one thing. I was vegetarian for many years, and I got to say I was very frail.
Yeah.
And I found that I didn't feel physically strong, even though I was exercising.
Yeah.
But that was just the impact that it had on me. There are proteins available in plant-based, but they're very different to proteins in your animal sources. Well, yeah, that's right. And so you really do have to know the science behind it and how to put it together in order to be able to fully get all the nutrition that your body needs. And I think for many of us, we don't actually understand that. And so that's when we start to, not feel as well as what we might want to feel. Yeah. And you've listened to your body here. So your body said, okay, I want to eat the veggies. I want to have more of it, but I do need the protein to fill me up. So, and that's a great thing. You are listening to your body now. So I think that's brilliant.
I feel better. High amounts of vegetables. My skin's better. I feel better. I feel so much better. And I can't remember the last time I ate fast food. I just can't remember the last time.
Okay.
I just don't have any cravings for it. Whereas when I wasn't eating well, so going back, 10, 15, 20 years, when I wasn't eating as well as I should have, I'd always be craving KFC, or, I used to love KFC popcorn chicken and their chips.
Yeah.
But it doesn't do anything for me anymore. I would rather sit down and have a veggie stir fry, than fast food. And I love my vegetables now.
That's brilliant. I've just called up my phone because I've started tracking. So, and I do this quite often. So I track the veggies, but so yesterday I had, well, it's not so much veggies. I track whole foods.
Sure.
So yesterday I had 18 whole foods. So this morning I've only had breakfast so far, and I've had 5 whole foods. But here's what I do though. Of those 5 whole foods, only 2 of those whole foods were different to yesterday. So what I try to do is actually have a look at how many different types of whole foods I've had over the course of a week. And I've been listening to one of the experts in gut health talk about this. And he said there's no right or wrong number of whole foods that we should be eating. He said, but it is important about the variety. And we all know this. We all know that we shouldn't eat the same thing day in, day out. But this tracking thing on, maybe a week in a month really helps you just turn it around and refocus again. And so if you can do little things like that on a monthly basis, whether it be for your exercise or whether it be for your eating, it really helps you just get that little bit of a kickstart, that motivation to keep going as well too. So
it's
so
amazing
another little tip.
When you actually start writing down what you're eating. It's amazing what it reveals, because you'll get to the end of the day and say, oh, I had a really good day today, and I've done my body proud today. But then if you had have actually written it down, there would have been the cappuccino, the muffin, all of the bits that oh gee, I've had that for the last 5 days. I probably should give my body a break. So writing it down and annotating it is such an important thing to do. Just a snapshot every now and then of going, how am I going? Let me write down. I'm going to take a week. I'm going to write down everything that I eat, so that I can, because relying on your memory is, I tell people that one of the biggest lies I ever tell myself is that I'll remember. Unless I write it down, it's gone.
No. Sally Ann, who works with me. She always says that I can say to somebody, are you eating healthy? And they'll say yes. She said, because all you remember is the last meal you had. She said, and I know this because this is me. She said, she's not even 5 foot. She's 4 foot something or other. And she got to 100 kilos after her third baby. And it was like she had this big change in her life to get back to, where she wanted to be. And I think she lost almost 50 kilos. And she said, so I know every excuse, every trick that you can tell yourself. And I know that you will only remember your last meal. So if the last meal was healthy, that's what you're going to say. But if you write it down and you actually look at it, that's when you actually discover what you were really, really doing when it comes to eating.
You become so much more conscious and mindful.
Yeah, there's so many aspects, isn't there, Michelle? There's the stress on your body, there's the quality of the sleep, there's how much water you have, there's the eating, there's the exercise. And when you start to map it all out like that, it becomes so overwhelming. How do you start? How do you start? Like, what was it? Like, how did you start? What did you do?
Well, I've always been quite active, but then there are periods where I'm one of those people that I'm almost extremist in what I do. I'm either fully there or 100% not. And
yes, all in, all out.
All in or all out. So one of the things that I've had to learn is moderation. So, and I've always been quite active. So, and to be, and in some ways in my mind, I've always linked it's the activity that will help me maintain my body weight. So if I'm putting on weight, I need to do more activity. Now I've changed that to I need to do strength training and build my lean muscle. I need to watch my portion sizes and be mindful of what I'm putting in my mouth. And because as you age and as you know, with your hormones changing and all of that sort of thing, you just don't process foods as well as you used to. And if you're eating, like you were saying before, the same thing over and over, your gut's kind of overproducing some microbes and underproducing other microbes, and you're just not, you're just out of balance. You're just out of balance. So for me, what I tend to focus on when I get to a point where I feel like, okay, I need to reset, one of the first things I do is look at my diet. What am I putting in my face? And then I'll look at because there are times where with my autoimmune, I overtrain. So if I'm finding that it's all a balancing act. If I'm finding that I'm getting fatigued, I look at, okay, am I eating well? Am I over-exercising? Is it that I need to take a step back from exercising, or is there something else going on for me? Am I overloaded from a mental capacity, that sort of thing? So, but I always start with, considering my sugar addiction, I always start with, what am I putting in my body? Because my body's going to do the best it can to meet the demands I put on it. So what am I fueling my body with to meet those demands? So that's where I.
Yeah, it's just it comes back to just listening to what's happening with your body, and so the sugar addiction. How are you going with that? So, have you learnt any tricks that you can share?
Do you know, if someone has got something that would work, I would be all there. I've tried. Go and have a drink of water. Or go and have a drink of something else. That doesn't work for me. Have a piece of fruit. Have. I try to go with the extra protein. Sometimes it works, other times it doesn't. It depends where I am hormonally and all of that sort of thing, where I am from a mental health perspective versus a hormonal perspective. And I struggle every day. I have to say, Peter, I struggle every day with it. So.
And so what's your biggest vice? Is it chocolate? Is it cakes? Is it?
I can sit down, and total honesty here, I can sit down and eat a family block of chocolate and go back for more because it just switches. It switches my ability to tell when I'm full. It just switches it off, and so I just keep.
Well, it does. That's exactly what it does. You know, you tell yourself, and that's where you can use that all in, all out part of your being. So if you tell yourself you're going to have one square or you're going to have a row, you know you're not. You're going to be all in. So you don't. This is the line you don't cross. It's like, I'm not having one square. I'm not having any of it, because I'm totally going to eat that whole entire block. So I'm hearing you. But what I discovered about myself is, and it was a Thursday night. This one Thursday night, I went, okay, I want a chocolate, and I was working at the time. And so I was working in a shopping centre, so I went, just going. And I was standing there just in this shopping centre, just actually delving into my thought processes associated with why I wanted it, because I didn't really want it. It was just, it was my habit. Yeah. And you know what had happened was, it was Thursday nights when my babies were babies, and we used to go Thursday night shopping, and we'd have a treat with the kids. And it was this happy memory of actually, you know, the kids getting this chocolate. Yeah. And so I went, I really don't need this chocolate. I can actually just sit here for a moment and just think about my kids' faces. And that's actually going to give me the same type of, we've got a plane going over. I'm near the RAF base.
I can hear that. And that's great.
Yeah. And there's usually not one.
There's two. There's two or four.
Yeah. Yes. Here they come. I'll just wait.
We used to do a lot of
there
that.
You go. Yeah.
You just wait for them to go over, and then you resume. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I just sat there and I went, And so from that point forward, on a Thursday evening, I actually didn't need to actually have that chocolate anymore, because it was just, I had identified it was that memory. And I think sometimes if you can really hone into the emotion associated with it, then, you can try to start to change it. But you know, when you were talking about hormones play such a big factor in it, particularly, you know, if you're in a period type of thing, it's going to want sugary foods and fatty foods. It's just going to be saying, come on, eat me. So, it is.
It is what it is.
Prepared. Yeah, it is being prepared for those things. Yeah. So
I think
wonderful.
If I fall off the horse once or twice a month, okay. But you're right. So, you know, no chocolate in the house, all of that sort of thing. Here they come again.
They're coming again. I thought I'd get it all done before they came over. They seem to come over at the same time each day. So yeah. So do you find that you will go to the shops if you don't have it in the house?
Oh, when the cravings are really bad, absolutely. I would walk there in over glass shards.
Yes. Okay.
Craving.
Yeah. There's some interesting thoughts there. I but we won't get into it today because I've almost kept you an hour, and I really, really appreciate your time, Michele. Let's just wrap it up with, what
Sure.
is the biggest lesson that you want to share with everybody today?
Firstly, before I do that, I want to say thank you. This has been an awesome conversation. I've really enjoyed it, Peter. I look forward to more. So I guess what I'd really like to leave people with is moderation. Be active and everything in moderation. I mean, I know that that's old advice, and I know, that it's been around quite a while, but it's that being active, it really doesn't matter what you're doing. It's the being active, not being sedentary. Get out there, get doing things. And when it comes to everything else, in moderation.
Totally. Love it. Thank you, Michele, for being here with me today. I really, really appreciate your time. Some absolute beautiful moments of gold in there, and you're such a fabulous person. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Peter.
Thank you. So, ladies, yeah, I will. Thank you. So, ladies, that's a wrap for us today. Please, if you want to share your story and have a conversation, just reach out to me. It's just lighthearted, just a bit of a banter, and just to share, the struggles that you've been through, the wins that you've had, and the biggest lessons that you can share with other women. And that's what's about, is empowering women to live their healthiest and their fittest lives. So thanks, Michele. Thanks, ladies. And we'll see you all very soon. Bye, everybody.